Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the SACS Forum today. My name is Julie Hong from Financial Accountability and Information Services Office. Our team, along with the Fiscal Oversight Support Office, will be presenting today. First and foremost, just some housekeeping items. Please be sure your microphone is muted. If you have questions, please use the Q&A located at the bottom of the screen. You may also send questions to saxinfo@cde.ca.gov. A CDE recap of the SACS Forum minutes will be on our webpage at the link below. On to some announcements and information. First and foremost, we want to go through the 23-24 UA actual submissions. We will soon begin our process of reviewing the 23-24 UA data submissions. Our focus of the review is in the indirect cost calculations to ensure the rates calculated are in accordance with CDE delegated agreement with the U.S. Department of Education. Our office may contact the local education LEA staff with questions regarding the indirect cost rate and any other financial reporting questions. If you can provide a prompt response, we would greatly appreciate it. Now on to the most important items on our agenda. John from our Fiscal Oversight and Support Office Administrator will be introducing the new staff.
Julie. So as many of you may know, Christine Davis, she retired at the end of May earlier this year. And Masha Lutzuk has appointed her as the new administrator of the Financial Accountability and Information Services. Another promotion we'd like to announce is Herminio Torres. He is going to be one of our newest consultants. In general, his focus will be on the Form A in the SACS web system, also any GAN questions that you may have, and he'll also be working on the Charter Alternative Form and the SACS Data Viewer. And so now I will turn it over to Masha.
Thank you. Good morning. So last week, we released the first interim reporting period for 24-25 in the SACS Web Financial Reporting System. And we do have a small issue so far of certain folks not getting the emails, and we're investigating that to make sure that next time that we use SACS Web for important announcements, that feature works well. And thank you for those that notified us that you didn't get the email. So apologies for that, but looking into this with the developers. Next, please. Another item that we'd like to notify everyone of, and this was included in our first interim release announcement and then some other meetings that we've attended, is that we have a system outage coming up, and that is going to be Friday, December 13th, Saturday at midnight. The system is going to go down for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. This is a one-time event. We don't plan to have this type of event on any kind of regular basis. This is something that we have to do. We attempted to negotiate a different date with our development team, but couldn't because we realized that this coincides with the due date for first interim reports. And so ideally, we would encourage everybody to work with their oversight entities and get those in by midnight, December 13th. We will send a couple more reminders through the system, and then by that time, our notification system should be working, but we will be reminding folks a couple more times before this outage occurs. Next, please. And another update I'd like to share is about our new feature that we're going to launch soon. It's called SACS Data Viewer. And this information was shared at the conference in Madeira a couple weeks ago and at some of the other meetings that we've attended. So I apologize if you're hearing it twice. Our goal here is to provide a preview so that when you get a notification as a SACS web user that SACS Data Viewer is live, you have a little bit of information what this is about. So this feature we're hoping to launch sometime later this month is going to be essentially open public access to the LAA dataset submissions that are in the SACS web system. The options for viewing are going to be PDF of the individual forms, Excel extract files, or DAT files. In order for the LAA dataset submission to be published, it must be in a publishable state. And earlier this year, we reached out and many to the COEs, and many of them helped us out by promoting the 22-23 and 23-24 datasets to a publishable state. So what we're planning to do is to first make available the 22-23 budget interim and unaudited actuals as kind of a first leg, and we'll send a notification to SACS web users, current SACS web users, that those are available. And then subsequently budget and interim 23-24 dataset submissions, and then followed by the 24-25 budget data that we have. We'll notify by email initially, and then subsequently what we'll do is we'll have a more or less a regular, we plan to have more or less regular schedule, and we'll publish that schedule on the CDE website. That CDE website financial reporting page will have the schedule, some helpful hints on how to use SACS Data Viewer, and we're working on some information that might be useful for a public user, maybe somebody who is not very familiar with SACS forms and the system, on what is it that they're actually looking at. So we're working on that currently, prior to our release.
Marsha, there's a question in the Q&A. If the districts submit early by the 13th, will changes from the outage affect the submission or require corrections?
Shouldn't. It shouldn't. Because there's going to be, the system should come back up online just the same as it was. So there are no, there shouldn't be any version changes or anything like that. It's simply what is happening is the equipment that runs our system has to be shut down for that weekend and then brought back up in an organized way to make sure that everything works. Hopefully I answered that question. All right, I'll go back to SACS Data Viewer. This is a couple of screenshots that are meant to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. It's going to be a web link that we'll post when you, and then the LAs can share that web link with whomever is wanting to use it or request data from them. They can be sent to this website. But the link is going to live on our CDE webpage, and when it first opens up, there'll be a selection, a menu that allows the user to select fiscal year, reporting period, entity type, school district, COE, etc., and an entity name. And then by clicking Apply Filters, the user will be able to see a menu of items that are available to open, print, download, etc. And like I mentioned earlier, those are going to be data extract files, PDF of the forms. And just as a quick sample, this is if a user selects a certain form like general fund, this is what it's going to look like. Same PDF that everybody is used to seeing. And once the data is published, it will stay on the website. We are working with the developers to see how many years worth of data we're going to be able to keep But once it's published, we don't plan to republish it for any reason. It will just, the data will live there and be independent of the SACS web system. Next, please.
Just ask you a few more questions if you can help
Okay.
respond. Mika has a question.
I am.
Kristen,
1 second. I need to. Okay.
are you able to see the questions?
So there's a question, does it mean that CTA rep can access to view? So I'm assuming that we're talking about SACS data viewer, and yes, anybody with the link, the person will not require a password, and it's meant to be a public access to the SACS data documents. So yes, CTE rep can access to view. Another one was from a user that didn't get our email about first interim. Asking about what the changes were. I think the biggest change was that we fixed an issue from last year where certain forms that extract data from prior year weren't extracting the data. That issue has been fixed. And the also you could check the dashboard when you log on to SACS Web for any up-to-date information on any issues. And is there an estimated time frame of publishing after the submissions are due? I think we will cover that in an upcoming slide. And does this also apply to SELPA users? I'm not sure what this question is about. Perhaps you can give us a little more information. So let me go through the rest of the SACS Web slide, SACS data viewer slide, and then perhaps that will answer at least the schedule question. Can you advance, please? So here's our estimated publishing cycle. The intent is to only publish dataset submissions after they went through the entire cycle of review by the oversight entity, and also, for example, for our unaudited actual submittals to publish after our main data files are out and published to our website using the normal process. So far, we are planning, these are our tentative dates. For current year budget, we plan 2 publishing. This will start off next year, one in mid-October and one in early December to take into account any previously disapproved budgets that were later revised. For current year first interim, we would publish in early February. For prior year unaudited actuals in February after our financial data are posted to the website. In our Access database files, and then current year second interim would be out in early May. So 1 second, let me go back to the questions. So there was a question about any consideration if files for interims will be allowed to promote if they contain a fatal in the projected year totals. If a district takes an interim budget to board that has a fatal in it, but it's board approved, am I understanding correctly, it would not be able to promote it. I'll let our team address like the specifics on that, but we did get a question that's kind of similar to that in our earlier presentations about, let's say, any TRC, technical review checks with explanations or anything that is out of the ordinary. The Excel extract files will provide the public with access to any comments or any explanations that the LEA will provide. So that information will be public. So if, say, a TRC has failed and the LEA submitted it with an explanation, the public will be able to see it through the Excel version of the dataset submission that will be published on the SACS Data Viewer. Another question, with SACS Data Viewer, will public users be able to download a DAT file or just PDF? And the answer is both. I think the DAT files for public users will probably be the least useful because they wouldn't have a way to view the data necessarily in a convenient way. So we anticipate that the public users will probably be using the PDF submissions mostly. So if you and the PDF submissions will be all the forms that are included in a dataset submission for the given dataset. And more questions. Will prior year datasets that were official when submitted, but due to SACS updates, then these became unofficial, will they remain as unofficial? I believe so. And then we're doing a couple more rounds of outreach to see. I think there are a handful of dataset submissions that are in a that might be impacted by this. I think we'll be reaching out individually, and then you can also reach out to us if you have those. But I believe the answer to that is yes, they will remain unofficial. So whatever is in SACS web right now will be published, assuming it's in a publishable data set. We have a handful that are not, and if anybody's interested in promoting those, they can reach out to SACS web. Email sacsweb@cde.ca.gov, and then we can help you out with instructions to how to get those. And then there's a comment that CTA has software that can read DAT files, so that particular user definitely will benefit from the DAT files that we provide. And another feature that somebody like CTA might be interested in that I'm not demoing here, but it is being worked on, is a consolidated data file download. So if the user selects COE, for example, Nevada County Office of Education is selected in the drop-down menu, the system will provide files for Nevada COE by itself, but it will also provide a consolidated DAT file and a consolidated Excel file that would include Nevada COE, all the school districts, and any charter schools that are in Nevada County. So somebody like the CTA might be interested in that feature as a shortcut, a faster way to get all the data in one swoop rather than downloading each individual district or charter school information. So thank you for that comment. I don't see anything else so far. And if my team members don't have anything to add on SACS Data Viewer, I'll move on to the next update, which is our California School Accounting Manual update, famously known as the CSAM. We are planning to present an update to the manual at the November 13th State Board of Education meeting. Since these slides were put together, the board changed their schedule and now they're just meeting on the 13th. So the 14th doesn't apply. The last update was in 2019. This is a bit of a longer period between updates than everyone is typically used to, and that has to do with the fact that most of our resources were taken up by implementation of the SACS web application. There are quite a bit of changes. 50 out of 61 procedures received updates. Along with appendices B, C, and D. And the changes were varying. Of course, there were changes to SACS coding, titles, and definitions. There were changes in the CSAM that were previously communicated to all the users through our website, letters, and various communications, but there are quite a few GASB statement updates included in this latest version. And as always, we've included any clarification of guidance in response to inquiries from LEAs. We've updated some examples. We've updated for consistency with other information that our department publishes. The agenda for the board has been published on the CDU website. The item and the summary of changes are available, and the PDF of the CSAM procedures that have edits are in the process of getting published, so they should be up on our website anytime today or tomorrow, and that entire update is about 545 pages. And lastly, I think we will, Julie, you're indicating one other question about publishing that needs to be answered. I think what we'll do is we'll take that and we'll take that back to discuss. I think that was all that I had for my updates.
I think they might have some people might have some questions with the hand raised if they can unmute their mic.
Right, if that feature is going to work for us, we can take those.
Okay, we'll test it out. It didn't work last time. Cassie, can you unmute your mic? Sonia has a question. Can you go ahead?
Not hearing anything, unfortunately.
I'm not hearing anything either.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, can you try to unmute your mic to see if it goes through?
Oh, folks are saying that they don't have an option to unmute.
Hmm.
Actually, I can unmute, but I did not mean to raise my hand.
Oh.
Interesting.
But
But we
thank
can
you.
hear you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I didn't mean to raise my hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle.
Thanks for letting us know.
Sure.
Yeah, we had some trouble. We had some trouble this at our last meeting. So
Sonia, maybe Sonia can try to unmute. I think she has a question.
Yeah, hi. I didn't have a question either.
okay,
Thank you for saying hi.
all right.
No, I don't see any more hand raised.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions.
Okay. There's also a comment about user didn't receive the email regarding changes in first interim. We send an email that includes the update to the that updates everybody on the release and includes all the information as well as the changes. And we had a number of users that did not receive an automated email from the system, and those folks reported that to us. Thank you very much, and we're investigating the issue. But if you check the dashboard, that will have most of the similar information that was in the email. If you check the dashboard in the SACS web system. All right.
Any more questions? Excuse me. See any more questions? If you can try to raise your hand again to see if I can unmute on this side. I don't see any hands raised. If we have not answered your questions thoroughly enough, or if you have additional questions later after for March on the topics, feel free to drop us an email at saxinfo.ca.gov, cda.ca.gov, sorry. It will get back to you. Thank you.
All right. And then also any questions about SACS Data Viewer and SACS Web, you can also use our SACS Web email address as well. And I believe that's all for my updates, and I'll pass the mic off to Rigo.
Great. Thank you, Masha. And Julie, next slide, please. closure of Goal 4610 Adult Independent Study Centers. So we are closing Goal 4610 starting fiscal year 25-26. Education Code Section 41976.2 established Adult Independent Study Centers. In 2021, Assembly Bill 486 repealed this ed code. If LEAs are still using Goal Code 4610, it is recommended to review if expenditures are best coded with Goals 4110. Are best coded with Goal 4110, regular education adult. Alternatively, LEAs can code these expenditures to locally defined Goal Codes 4130 through 4399, which must roll up to Goal 4110 when reporting to the CDE. The CDE anticipates minimal impact to LEAs as only 9 school districts use Goal Code 4610 in their fiscal year 22-23 on edited actual submissions. Next, we have Hillary.
Thank you, Rico. So I'm here today to discuss the Every Student Succeeds Act per pupil expenditure, or ESSA PPE reporting. The CDE is currently revising the application that we've used for the past few years to complete the ESSA PPE reporting. The School Level Finance Survey, or SLFS, will be included in ESSA PPE application moving forward. And we will be holding an informational webinar in January of 2025 to outline the changes in the ESSA PPE reporting, as well as providing some SLFS information starting with the 23-24 school year. And we have additional information about the ESSA PPE requirements on our website. And the address can be seen on the slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so ESSA PPE access codes are sent only to the following people, and they will be sent in December of 2024. So at COEs, or County Offices of Education, only the superintendent and chief business officer will be receiving the codes. For school districts, the superintendent and chief business officer will be receiving the codes. And for the charter schools, the principal and the chief business officer will be receiving the codes. It is recommended that those responsible for completing the actual, can you go back, please? It is recommended that for those that are completing the reporting requirements, that they reach out to these people to obtain the access codes. Next slide, please. Okay, so something new for this year to be prepared about is LEAs will now have the option to select the enrollment type that they use for their ESSA PPE reporting. We have 3 different enrollment options that I've outlined here. For Census Day enrollment, will be automatically populated in the application. And then we have cumulative enrollment, and LEAs can choose to use the cumulative enrollment as student membership, and they will hand key this information into the application. And we will be verifying the counts and requesting revisions as necessary. So please keep that in mind. And please go back. Thank you. Can you please go back? Please go back. There. Thank you. Okay. So, okay. So for cumulative enrollment, the information will be verified against what's reported to CDE and be preloaded. And for annual ADA, we will be verifying the data against the ADA reported for the purposes of the principal apportionments calculation. Oh, and Census Day enrollment does come from CalPADS. I'm sorry. And please note that if the LEA chooses to hand key in either the cumulative enrollment or the annual ADA, that we at the CDE will be verifying this against the data that we have, and LEAs where there is a difference that has been identified, we will be requesting revisions. For further information, you can reach us at essappe@cde.ca.gov, and I'm happy to respond to any questions. Now we'll hear from Rigo regarding the school level finance survey.
Thanks, Hillary. So in the next couple of months, another cycle of SFPPE and SLFS reporting will begin. This will be the second year in the implementation schedule to full SLFS reporting. As a reminder, SLFS became federally mandated through the Civil Rights Data Collection in May 2023. This requirement applies to all public schools, which includes charters. We'll use the California School Directory to identify the required schools, and we'll collect the data at the LEA level. For the upcoming data collection cycle, LEAs will need to provide the total current expenditures, school level and central, for National Center of Education Statistics, NCES, Function 1000, known as instruction, for each of its schools. LEAs should report actual expenditures, not budgeted or estimated. Note that the U.S. Department of Education has approved a phased-in implementation timeline for California LEAs. So each year, the requirement is different until we get to full implementation. Next slide. This slide shows the phased-in timeline for reporting this data. The first data collection for fiscal year 22-23 was met by LEAs when they submitted their SFPPE submission, which provides expenditures by school. The bolded second line represents where we are in phasing in the implementation of this new data collection. For fiscal year 23-24, California LEAs are required to report only instruction expenditures, as previously mentioned. CDE anticipates a collection window from December 2024 to March 2025. Lastly, starting fiscal year 24-25, additional NCES functions and exhibits will be required to be submitted within the CDE collection window beginning December 2025. LEAs will need to provide expenditure data for instruction expenditures, but also pupil support services, instruction support services, school administration, along with information on salaries paid to teachers, instructional staff or assistants, and books and periodicals. Next slide. To obtain the equivalent of NCES function 1000, the CDE has created a crosswalk. We have determined that NCES function 1000 is equivalent to the SACS functions shown on the screen. And for closing remarks, so detailed information about this federal requirement, including frequently asked questions, is available at our SLFS webpage, which is https://www.cde.ca.gov/fg/ac/fs. For questions, you could email the SLFS mailbox at slfs@cde.ca.gov. That concludes my presentation, so I'll take any questions. Let's see if there's any questions right now. The question is, the SLFS will be a separate reporting from SFPPE this year? Yes, yes it will. Okay, let's see. I'm not seeing any other questions. I think we have one for SFPPE. So we could go back to that one. Let's see if there's any more SLFS questions. Then I could hand that question back to Hillary. Okay, I'm not seeing any SLFS questions. And once again, I highly recommend if you have to forward this information to one of your colleagues, to please visit the webpage. We have a lot of information there, including a recording that explains the same information I provided, but a little bit more in detail. And it also has the frequently asked questions like stated. So I highly encourage for people to go look into that webpage to see the requirements for this data collection. Will there be a template or online report? So we are updating the ESSA PPE application. So when the LEA access the survey, they will see two different surveys. They'll see an option for the ESSA PPE, and then right below will be the option for SLFS. And if you're familiar with working with the ESSA PPE submission, then it's very similar. It looks similar. The programming is very similar as well, and it's also going to it's going to remind you a lot of the ESSA PPE collection survey. So I don't see any other questions. So I'll hand that question back to Hillary.
Hillary, are you able to see the question?
Yes, yes. Okay, so we have made 3 options available to LEAs for ESSA PPE for several reasons, namely based upon feedback from LEAs, as well as the fact that we are simply required that the Department of Education does not specify the enrollment type, so we wanted to pass this option on to the LEAs. In addition, due to the variation in the types of LEAs that report, specifically looking at our county offices of education, they may find it more useful to report using a different measure of enrollment. I hope that answers your question.
That's all the questions I see. I don't see any other additional questions. So this concludes our webinar today. And the question just came in. Sorry if I missed this. When is the next validation table scheduled? PERDI may contain valid fund and resource combination removal related to ELOP that was concerning specific Fund 12 as a validation fund combination.
Currently, right now, the Fund 12 that's open to Resource 2600 still remains open. We are further discussing this with the program office. So we are not releasing any validation table update pertaining to Fund 12 being closed with Resource 2600.
Thank you, Blanche. Is there any other questions? There's another question. Is there any update regarding the SAC warning error for resource 6333? Is Jody online able to assist with that? And there's a question.
Can you let me know what warning error you're seeing? Resource 6333 is valid. So can you let me know what?
And there's a subsequent question. Is there step-by-step training to work on SACs? We have SACs trainings published on the web. We can send it to you, the link, if you need it.
Yes, I'll add a link shortly.
Okay.
I'll add a link. There's also for any QSS users, myself and Tammy we're communicating with QSS user guide conference in March. We'll be presenting there. Also, our user guide is quite extensive for SACS Web. It's available in a large document that can be downloaded from our website, but it's also available within the system. Wherever you see a question mark, a little question mark, you can click that and get access to the instructions. And I will provide a link to the training videos that were added to our website when SACS Web was implemented.
Thank you, Marcia. Okay, is any last minute questions? I don't see any additional questions in the Q&A. So this pretty much brings us down to the end of our webinar.
Hi, Julie. I just wanted to talk to Kim's question on resource 6333. That is only open for counties. And it's open for just for Fund 1. So I'm not sure what question if you're a different LEA using the resource, but if you want to send your detailed question into SACS Info, I could take a look at that for you.
Kim, still have a question to clarify that comment. If you can provide more specifics, Kim,
Yeah.
maybe you can assist.
Because you said you're getting the fund by resource, and when I'm looking at the combos, I could see that 6333 is valid for county offices only and only for Fund 1. So I was just wondering if you could maybe send me a screenshot of the TRC to SACS Info if you are a county and you're using it in Fund 1 and are still getting the message.
Thank you, Jody. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So as usual, if you have additional questions after the meeting, or if you have need clarification on your questions, please drop us an email at sacsinfo@cd.ca.gov. We'll be happy to provide further assistance. And this is to let you know that our next meeting we're planning on February 11th, 2025. And thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate the live interactions, and we hope that we have provided some helpful information to you. And if there's no last minute questions, I think we're done with the meeting and give you back the gift of time. And thank you everybody for joining us today. We appreciate your interactions.